Why Amazon FBA sellers do not hit 8 figures. So I'm going to show you through why that is today. So here's what I'm going to show you today. The biggest mindset difference between Amazon and D2C sellers. One of my tweets included your customer's journey, Eugene Schwartz's 5 stages of awareness and why they matter for your customer. A step-by-step product example that shows you how your customer thinks at each stage in D2C versus Amazon FBA. And finally, why Amazon sellers can plateau and D2C brands can scale and how to bridge that gap to reach 8 figures. So this is a tweet I put up the other day. I'm just getting my Twitter going or my X going. And few Amazon FBA sellers hit 8 figures because the industry is predominantly operators, not marketers. Amazon does the marketing brand for you and you just need to be 1% better or more than other offers. Whereas D2C necessitates becoming a good promoter and a marketer, agree. So I don't really have any followers on Twitter. So there was some engagement here, which I thought was interesting as a tweet. So why did it get any engagement at all? Why did people agree with this view? So the biggest difference that I see, so obviously doing Amazon FBA since 2017, in Amazon circles, conversation is often about operations. Sellers obsess over supply chain, logistics, PPC, and reviews. It's a product first environment where success becomes from being 1% or more better. Slightly cheaper, slightly faster, slightly higher reviews. And because Amazon brings the traffic, marketing feels almost invisible. So this is actually kind of a feeling that I had with Amazon ads. Sometimes it can be incremental. Sometimes you can obviously get a winning ad that does really well. Sometimes you can find untapped markets, etc. But sometimes it feels like an incremental increase where your ads take away from your organic. And I wondered why that was until I realized that it is traffic that's already there. It's traffic that's already at the bottom end of the funnel. And I'm going to go through why that is and how we can actually use some methods to further increase our sales. So Amazon conversation, sourcing, logistics, reviews, PPC. Success equals continuous incremental product optimizations. I obviously know this well from the agency. Our most successful clients, we're in there continually iterating, whether it's on PPC split tests or content split tests or click-through rate or product optimizations or adding in things that are missing. It becomes from continuous improvements. There's just no two ways about it. Traffic plus trust come from Amazon. Okay, and it's going to make more sense in a second. D2C sellers, so in D2C communities, which I'm also in, it flips completely. You know, here people obsess over creative strategy, offers, and storytelling. The product doesn't have to be groundbreaking, but the marketing has to be. You can scale an average product with elite creative, but you can't scale a great product without it. And that's the real difference. You obviously look at examples out there where people take absolute, what I would call a nothing burger. For example, Liquid Death, which is obviously water in a can, and then it becomes $1 billion company. That's not because the product was any better. That's because the marketing, the packaging, the brand was better. Okay? And that just goes to show what good marketing can do. So D2C conversation, ads, offers, creatives, brand story, success, positioning, and so success equals positioning. And this is marketing positioning, the angles, understanding the customer, and product is secondary. Marketing leverage is better than product leverage. And I think we know that. You can, of course, over time, you want to have a good product. And I think this is where like Amazon FBA sellers can have an edge or an advantage when it comes to D2C, is because we know how important product and supply chain is, you know. The only issue is you can have a great product and supply chain, but you can't scale it without good marketing. So marketing would actually give you a head start because it would give you the problem that your product is not good enough or your supply chain is not good enough. Whereas product and supply chain generally won't give you the problem. You would need to have something happen to give you a problem. So your customer's journey. So this is where Eugene Schwartz comes in. He mapped out 5 stages of awareness, a framework you need to know for your e-commerce journey. If your message doesn't match where the customer is on their journey, you lose them. Amazon shoppers usually arrive halfway down this funnel. D2C customers can start at the top and you need to guide them all the way down the funnel. This is the real difference. And I'm going to have a graph now on the next page that will illustrate this. So 5 stages from unaware to most aware. Amazon shoppers are already solution aware, or more than likely product aware because they're searching for the product. So they're already beyond, okay, there's solutions out there. They're at the point where they're searching for the product itself. And most aware, you're basically extremely aware already and you're looking to make a purchase. D2C brands can start higher up the funnel and guide them through every stage. Not always, but this can be a big edge as well because you're starting in a market that is people that are just not aware of the product at all. So we see here the 5 stages, and this is the graph I've put together here. D2C begins, again, not always, but oftentimes it can, from an unaware stage. Then you've got problem aware, you've got solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Now you can see where Amazon FBA begins, or where customers searching on the Amazon site begins. It begins at solution aware. It begins at least at solution aware. Like solution aware to me would be they're searching neck pain, whereas product aware would be they're searching neck massager. They know already the solution, but they are actually searching for the product. They're aware of what the product is. Okay, and your marketing has to be different at each stage of this. So I'm going to get into this in just a moment and how you can actually benefit as an Amazon FBA seller. Or D2C, contrarily, coming over to Amazon FBA as well. So obviously they only purchase when they're most aware. They've went through this funnel. And here's 5 stages of awareness, or here's their 5 stages. I'm going to give you an example through this as well, so that I can make it very clear for you to understand where your product and brand fits into this. So let's walk through all 5 stages with one simple product, a cold press juicer. So notice how the message changes depending on where the customer is. So completely unaware, storytelling or aspiration. Imagine starting every morning with a fresh juice in your kitchen, no store runs, no plastic bottles. So they're trying to appeal with some storytelling, with some aspirational stuff. So they're trying to create a desire, basically, through this. Now, they might not even be aware they have a problem at this point because they're completely unaware. But when they're aware they have a problem, that is the second part, or that's the second stage, and that's problem aware. So you're basically agitating the pain. So tired of feeling sluggish every morning, missing nutrients is draining your energy. So this might be someone that's aware that, okay, I'm not hitting all my minerals, or I'm not getting all my vitamins in, and therefore this type of ad would speak to them in a way that they're kind of already waiting for this. Missing nutrients, you're like, I am missing nutrients. I had a blood test last week. I'm low vitamin D, I'm low vitamin C. And this is exactly where this would come in. Third one here, solution aware. So introduce the category. So juicers make it easy to get vitamins in minutes, but not all juicers are equal. So again, you're trying to bring in the category itself. You're not necessarily moving on to your product per se, but you might have brought them from problem aware with an ad, or it might be the top of your ad, you're problem aware, tapping into the pain, but then you're introducing the category. Did you know that juicers can make it easy to get these vitamins in minutes? But not all juices are equal. So you're kind of hinting at the next stage of awareness then. So these are the first 3 stages. And the way to think about this is the top of the funnel, right? Top of the funnel here is completely unaware. And then obviously, as we see in the image, it comes down. So the amount of people that then come through the funnel is less and less. There is a filter there. And you're bringing them through that journey. Now, we've seen on the graph as well, this is where often Amazon search comes in. And this, if you think of the buyer avatar, if you think of the customer that is searching, they are at a point where they're product aware. So differentiate your product. The cold flow juicer extracts 30% more juice and rinses clean in 60 seconds. So this would be someone that is searching for a juicer. So you're going to see it in your PPC ads. People are searching for juicers. And then ultimately what happens then is they're comparing products. So your goal here is to differentiate your product. Your goal is not to bring them back. Of course, you can have some solution aware or problem aware. You can have some pain points there to kind of help them to speak more emotionally to the customer and show them you understand them better. But primarily, your marketing should be product aware marketing. It should be differentiating your product. If you want to stand out on Amazon, which we know is so important, it's got to be differentiation. So this is how you would do it. You've got to speak to your features. You've got to speak to particularly your features, but benefits as well. But things that really separate you and make you better. And this doesn't always have to come from product. We know that. It can come from after sales, come from inserts, come from booklets, things that really can separate communities even on the back of products. And then finally, you've got most aware, so push to act. So you've differentiated your product. They're kind of aware, oh, this one looks pretty good. Most aware, push to act. So cold flow juicer, 10% off coupon or a bonus recipe guide. So at this point, they're basically at the decision-making stage, and you're basically pushing them over the edge. So that might be around, let's say, Prime Day, you would run a 10% coupon. Because, okay, you might have the differentiation, but particularly if you don't have a huge differentiation, the difference can be if you use a push to act method here, you can have obviously a coupon, and that would be enough to get the sale. So particularly powerful in high season and something that just gets them over the edge. But you're at this point, you're not necessarily differentiating. You're differentiating through the offer, through pricing. You're giving them a reason to make the purchase now, basically. So I hope you can start to see how that's changing throughout, and where you're actually speaking to your customer can make all the difference. Because there's not any point of having completely unaware marketing on Amazon, because they're not at that stage. So it's like they're searching for a juicer, right? And we're like, okay, imagine starting every morning with a fresh juice. No store runs, no plastic bottles. Tired of feeling sluggish every morning, missing nutrients or draining your energy. They're already aware of this stuff. Of course, can it come into it? Yes, but this should absolutely be secondary, even tertiary. It should not be your lead marketing angles, because they're already past this stage, you know? So why Amazon sellers can plateau and D2C sellers can scale. So let's get even more specific here in terms of why that can affect Amazon sellers. So here's the key difference. Amazon shoppers usually arrive at solution or product aware. That's why operators succeed here. They're selling to people who are already halfway up the awareness ladder, or let's say halfway down the funnel. But in D2C, you can take customers from unaware all the way to most aware. That's why marketers dominate. It's a longer funnel, it requires storytelling, it requires a little bit more strategy. Whereas, let's say, the strategy in Amazon would come around the product development, it would come around the supply chain. The strategy in D2C is often around the marketing. It's a longer funnel, so you need to plan out each stage. So this is obviously a bigger moat too if we look at it from driving equity value. Now, we know on Amazon that it can be competitive, you know, but if there's oftentimes the barrier to entry or the difficulty with attaining that, it makes it less competitive. So you're tapping into different marketing. So the Amazon funnel equals short, the D2C funnel equals longer. Each rewards different skills. They definitely both complement each other, don't get me wrong, but they are different. And I would argue, if like me, I'm trying to become the full repertoire of e-commerce selling, I want to learn all the skills. So what you can do as an Amazon FBA seller, recognize where you meet your customers on their journey. When I read, so here's a story as well. When I read Brand Story by Donald Miller many years ago, I started putting completely unaware and problem aware in my Amazon listing copy and content messaging, because I thought that this was what you were meant to do. I thought you were meant to like spend a lot of time talking about the pain point and the problem to make them realize they actually had a problem. But me not understanding at the time that the people that are already searching for a product are already aware they have a problem. They're past that stage. So it's redundant. Of course, can you have it in there? As I said, it could be secondary or tertiary messaging. But if it's your lead messaging, you're going to have a problem. You're leaving money on the table, of course, because you're speaking to them at the wrong stage. You're losing customers. Whereas, let's say, more simple approach to selling, if people are just in there purely talking about differentiation and benefits, maybe you see a Chinese seller and they're doing like more units and you're wondering, like, I've put a lot of time into this. There's been times like that with brands before, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, how are they? This is possibly why. They're just doing a more simple features differentiation approach, whereas me taking it too far and trying to do a whole funnel basically on it at the end of the funnel. So I hope that makes sense. And then customers are already well beyond the stage, therefore I wasn't speaking to them where they are at. I was losing customers or telling them something they already know. Okay. So first one, recognize your customers where you meet them on their journey. You've got to do that. You obviously shape your marketing, shape your listings to that. Next one here is win the comparison game. Okay, you've got to be realistic. If we're at these stages of the funnel, you've got to bring product aware and most aware messaging into your listing, A+ content, ads, and then obviously your other things, maybe your bundles, maybe your coupons or discounts. Variations can come in here as well. But product aware, differentiate your products over your competitors. Better features, unique benefits, design. The cold flow juicer extracts 30% more juice and rinses clean in 60 seconds. Unlike bulky alternatives. This is going to be a selling point. It's product aware marketing. It's going to be a selling point. Versus, imagine every day you wake up with a juice in your hand. Okay, they're beyond that. We know that. And then most aware buyers. Remove friction, and I've got in brackets here, trust, reviews, offers, urgency, especially around peak season. So obviously limited time offers, limited time sales, trust, obviously credibility. We've talked about in the other videos, putting your testimonials in your listing, pointing out if you're a top seller in the niche, if you're a number one seller, having the brand story there. These are all things that are available to you even as an Amazon FBA seller or on your Amazon listing. And people don't take advantage of it. So if you can tap into the trust reviews, offers, and urgency, especially around peak season, we all know how big peak season can be in all of e-commerce, of course, but you can drive a lot of traffic. So here we are, the cold flow juicer. So we're obviously talking about Amazon FBA specific here. These things obviously apply on D2C. There is more flexibility on Shopify, but Amazon specific. So the cold flow juicer sold 50,000 units, featured in Vogue, 10% off coupon and bonus recipe guide. So you've got a few elements here, right? The first element here we've got is the units sold. Now this is on Amazon already as well, but you can also point out, as I said, I've seen multiple times, and we've seen as well, where they're the number one seller in your niche. This can be a small sub niche, but you're the number one in North America. You're the number one on Amazon. These are things that if you get to that stage, obviously point them out, because they're self-fulfilling as well. You know, people will buy what they see other people buying, provided all the rest of the variables are good. Featured in Vogue, so you're obviously adding in social credibility here. Now, I don't know if Juicer would ever be in Vogue. I don't quite think so. But just as an example, maybe some other magazine or site whereby it's social credibility, it points to the fact that this is an accepted great product. And again, is another big plus. Next then, we move into 10% off coupons. So we're adding in this more most aware element. So they're shopping, particularly on peak season, they've probably waited for this for weeks. They're going to make a purchase, you know. But obviously it applies at other times of the year as well. With 10% off coupon, bonus recipe guides. These are things that come into the offer that can be value adds to customers. And then obviously urgency, if you have urgency around discounts and deals and stuff like that, comes into it there. So that's number 2, win the comparison game. So we've got recognize customers where you meet them on a journey, win the comparison game. Number 3, so borrow from D2C marketing. So use your A+ content, brand story and ads, inject elements of storytelling. Frame benefits to speak the problem-aware, solution-aware thinking. So it doesn't mean we should ignore these elements of marketing altogether, but we should always make sure it doesn't overwhelm the product or most aware messaging. So even if Amazon traffic arrives more ready to buy, you can still stand out by connecting emotionally. Okay? You can tap into the listening, understanding your customer better, and that will be a big benefit. Number 4, expand off Amazon. So capture emails, build community, run creative ads, optimize offers. This is where you can play the unaware, problem-aware storytelling to grow beyond the platform and bring a whole new segment of customers. So if we understand that the customers on Amazon are already at the lower level of the funnel, that's a smaller segment, right? They're already at the bottom. We know there's all these customers up at the top with the wider part of the funnel. Now, we can't attack that on Amazon, but if you use off Amazon ads, you can. So you're basically tapping people that might be unaware they have a problem. So you're bringing in a whole new segment of customers, and this is obviously a great way to scale revenue. It's obviously a great way to bring in a huge new segment of customers. So this is also how you bring equity out or build brand equity outside of Amazon, which is what drives 8-figure exits. Okay, so this is what we want. We obviously want big exits, 7 figures, 8 figures, hopefully 9 figures one day, we'll see. But you've got to build real brand equity, and this is one way of doing it, is expanding off Amazon. So I hope this helped. I ask nothing of you, but if it helped, click subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Do let me know if you agree with what I'm saying here as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts.